So today we welcome contemporary artist Emma Jacobs to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So Emma, can you tell us a little about you, your artistic style, and how you came to be in Cork?
I came to be in Cork through a kind of a bizarre way. We were running an art-themed B&B in Durban in South Africa, and we had a couple stay with us in the B&B. They had sold their house and they were staying with us while they were wrapping that up. And they happened to mention that they had a holiday apartment in a place called Kinsale. I said, "Where's that?" She said, "Google it." So I did. Little did we know that less than 1 year later, we'd be living a mere 16 kilometers down the road in Ballinhassig. And I think that's just a phenomenal testament to how the power of connection and planting seeds can make such a difference in one's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I've literally just wrapped up a 3-week solo exhibition at the Kinsale Library. So this place of Irish heritage for us has been really significant. So a little bit about myself and my artistic journey. I started art as a very young child and went to art classes throughout my career at school. Finished off school with art, and during the process had been to a child art studio with a woman called Nina Campbell-Quine in Johannesburg. Didn't study art at university. I'd been on an exchange year to Luxembourg and then came back and did an undergrad degree with a Bachelor of Arts, Languages and HR, and then did a postgrad in Organization and Development. Went into a learning and development career for nearly 10 years. And then we decided to opt out of our corporate and consulting careers and go into our own businesses, and landed up for the next 20 years running art-themed B&Bs. And in 2016, I started an oil painting for beginners class. It turned out I was quite good at it. And I managed to get a lot of practice in, because if you're running B&Bs, you have no life. You are always waiting for guests either to come for breakfast, to check in, to check out, to take their dinners, whatever it may be. It runs 7 days a week. It's relentless. So while hubby may be watching TV, I was painting. One day, one of my guests said to me, "Do you sell them?" I said, "Of course I do."
Yes.
And gosh, how do I figure out how to price paintings? Anywho, my art-themed B&B landed up being my Emma Jacobs Art Gallery.
Yeah.
It was wonderful because I had zero competition.
Mm-hmm.
And if people liked me and they resonated with me and they liked the B&B and or South Africa, they would choose a piece of art as a memento of our relationship and their journey. And I would then become part of their journey with my piece of art going home with them. So I literally have art all over the world, from Japan to Ghana, Sweden, Canada, States, everywhere, all over, Mauritius.
Yeah.
So then I very soon started painting with a group of practicing artists at a studio on the Durban beachfront. And on the 7th of March, 2020, I had the opening of my first solo art exhibition at the foyer in Durban. It was a wonderful event, and all my mates pitched and the family was there. And it was just a huge celebration and validation of this 4-year journey of starting my art and growing it and developing it. And then 1 week later, the travel bans were announced.
Yes.
And I managed to quickly get in and rescue my paintings and bring them home, thinking it was only 3 weeks that we were shutting down. And of course, it wasn't.
Yeah.
We had 3 big B&Bs, 15 staff, and everybody panicked. So as you can imagine, we were in a little bit of trouble. The only money that was really safe was the money that was put aside in a kitty from the sale of my art. And long story short, that kitty, which wasn't that much, paid for us to fly out to do our mandatory hotel quarantine, to pay the first month's rent, to buy the first little car. And I started off working in hotels here. I worked first as a duty manager and then moved over as the people and culture manager at the Montanati Hotel in Cork City. Carrying on with my art now in the background and trying to build the art career now that I had fought so hard to build for 4 years in South Africa, and start all over again here in Ireland. So that was loads of fun, and picking up commissions as I was going along, mostly private commissions. And one of the things that we did at the Montanati was a complete renovation of the back of house areas. And it was really beautiful, beautiful employee restaurant, changing facilities, etc. And I wangled my way into being the back of house artist, had all my work up in the back areas where all the employees were. We had
Mm-hmm.
29 different nationalities, and sold one of them to a Reunion Island waiter,
Yeah.
which is lovely. And then from there, I started getting ready for my first solo exhibition. And while I was doing that, I took the big decision to exit my formal senior management
Mm,
salary and role. And I left in April of 2024 to go full time as a professional artist.
mm-hmm.
I've been busy since then, and I've just completed my fourth solo exhibition at the Kinsale Library. And I am currently artist in residence at the Address Hotel in Cork City. And it's been a really, really exciting journey
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how the art industry works in Ireland,
Yes, yeah.
how the different groups work, how the galleries work here, how the markets work here, how the shows, the festivals, the craft fairs, all of those things. And part of that journey has been to specifically network with both artist groups. So I'm a
Mm-hmm.
member of Sample Studios, for example, but also networking groups like Network Cork, which I really believe quite firmly in. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay.
It's been a whirlwind tour of the journey, but people, art, learning and development, hospitality, those are all my superpowers.
Yeah.
And I'm really blessed that as a self employed creative entrepreneur and visual artist,
Mm,
I'm able to kind of pull all those things
yeah.
together.
Yeah. Okay. And how would you describe the overall feeling or message you hope to convey through your art?
My art is all things bright and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love to capture what I see, the beauty of what I see in my daily life, the people I meet, the faces, the places. And especially in and around Kinsale and West Cork, it's just beautiful.
Mm,
And why would you not want to paint these beautiful, vibrant paintings? So I believe that my art should bring joy and happiness and nostalgia and beauty to people's homes or offices or their businesses, and that a lot of what I paint is linked to nostalgia, children playing on beaches, the joy of a couple walking on a beach, beautiful towns
mm,
in West Cork. I mean, it's a beautiful source of inspiration. I love painting big portraits. I love painting big landscapes. Pretty much paint everything.
mm-hmm.
Work off a photographic reference, and so long as it's caught my eye, I'll paint it. If
Okay.
it's a snail, a seascape, it doesn't matter, so long as it's beautiful.
I think your paintings really, it's like they conjure up, like for me anyway, like memories. That's when I look at your paintings, like it just conjures up a memory. So it's that real kind of, visualization of something that's maybe deep inside of us. That's what I see when I see one of your paintings.
Oh, thank you. I paint my memories,
Mm,
and others resonate with
yeah,
those
yeah.
memories because we're traversing through the same places
Mm,
and the same chapters in our lives.
yeah,
And when we see a mom playing with kiddies on the beach, or we see a beautiful town that we've grown up with, it resonates with us.
yeah,
And that's what it is. It's a lot of it is nostalgia. And if I paint the things that make me happy, it very often resonates with someone else.
absolutely. And your journey involved, as you said, emigrating from South Africa to Ireland. Did that experience of profound change influence your art?
Well, it certainly has changed the content of
Mm.
my art and the subject matter. There are a lot more people wearing jackets on beaches than there ever were. In fact, I don't think I ever painted a painting of anyone wearing a jacket,
Yeah,
let
yeah,
alone a scarf or a beanie on a beach
yeah.
in Durban. But yeah, that certainly has changed what I do. It's a different, more rugged, wilder landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really focused quite specifically on refining my process. So I use a process where I run alcohol ink down on the canvas, the raw canvas, and then I use an acrylic wash as a background to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've played quite a bit more with that because the weather is a little dare we say, unpredictable. It's quite
Mm.
often a little drizzly and a
Mm.
little cold, but I do run around and take lots of photos when the blue sky is out.
Mm.
But these alcohol runs kind of give a little bit of the rainy background and a little bit of that shimmer and that glisten, even the sunny days.
Absolutely. And you went from being self employed in South Africa to employed in Ireland and back to being self employed. What was the biggest lesson learned navigating those transitions in a new country?
It's not easy to immigrate in your 50s, but specifically for us, we had been our own bosses for 20 years.
Mm.
We had worked in both corporate and consulting before that. So, we've worked for bosses, but being the bosses ourselves and having a big team of 15 staff, and I trained over 60 international hotel school students in our premises, it is a big transition to go back to being employed.
Mm-hmm.
Practically, it made a lot of sense to go back to formal employment while we found our feet, while we settled, while we navigated the new landscape,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and while we grew a base of people to know and
Mm.
a network to be part of. If you're trying to create a sense of community, being part of that community in a workplace is a very practical way of doing it.
Mm.
I love hospitality,
Mm.
and for me, it was a natural fit. I had never worked in a hotel before,
Mm.
despite having a small hotel ourselves,
Mm.
but I hadn't worked formally in the hotel sector. So that was a big learning curve. And while I'd worked as a learning and development manager, I hadn't worked as an HR manager before,
Mm.
especially not in Ireland. So that involved a quick employment law course with core ETB at a level
Yeah.
6. And, so there's been a lot of learning, and that has been extremely interesting, especially now coming from Africa
Mm.
into an EU country. So, yeah, I believe in lifelong learning. I think it's important to constantly learn new things
Mm.
and to grow. So that was an incredibly useful journey. And I loved being part of the hotel, and I loved working with all the different nationalities. And I loved watching people grow and develop. And whether that be through art classes that I run or courses I teach or whatever it is, I love watching people in that journey and being part of their journey.
Okay. Okay. And your first solo show bookended the pandemic and your emigration. So Durban 2020 and Cork 2024. How do these two exhibitions differ in feeling or focus for you?
The first one, we didn't know the pandemic was going to result in what it did.
Mm.
So it was a joyous celebration of the art and of me,
Mm-hmm.
which was amazing. It was just before my 50th birthday.
Mm.
Little did I know there would be no 50th birthday. It
Yeah.
was me, my husband, the 2 kids, and the 2 dogs, literally
Oh
with
God.
a camera on a timer.
Yeah.
So that became my 50th birthday in
Mm.
retrospect. And it was just a wonderful celebration and just so much support and love from the people I know and care about. And then when we came here, we'd gone through this really traumatic journey, and the whole pandemic was horrific, and the immigration was hard, and I came ahead of my husband, and then there were riots in Durban of July 21, which caused the sale of our main B&B to collapse. And husband was there, and we were here, and it was tricky. So by the time April 2024 came, nearly 4 years later, a lot had happened.
Mm.
And now we had, in large part, set ourselves up for recovery and sustainable recovery on top of that. So by the time that exhibition happened, and there were more than 70 people in the room
Mm.
in this beautiful venue in Wellington Street in Cork
Mm.
City, you look around the room and you go, wow, when I arrived in Ireland, I knew one person who I met in 1989 when I came to visit my aunt, my
Yeah.
cousin. And then you look around that room, and that one person was in the room,
Yeah.
and nearly 70 other people were there too from all different parts. That was a testimony that I had forged community, and I
Mm.
had built networks, and I had made a difference in terms of what I had done, that enough people were there to support me and my journey again.
Mm.
And fine, my art is a lovely way to support me.
Yeah.
And it was a really special evening. Yeah.
You must have felt so proud, did you, at that moment?
proud and terrified because
Yeah.
I'd just left my job. So people use the word brave a lot with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Brave, and starting things again, and trying new things go
Yeah.
hand in hand. But I think it's an important lesson that if you're going to do something that you really believe in, then it's worth taking the risk.
Mm,
So
mm.
long as it's a good calculated risk. I mean, if I was a horrific artist and I
Yeah.
was really bad at, business, it would be a really foolish idea. But it was a calculated risk
Mm,
and one that's going to take time to fully get strength in its roots.
mm.
But the seeds have all been planted and I'm starting to reap the rewards of that now, which is really exciting.
Very good. And talking about the planting seeds, you've rapidly built relationships with galleries and venues across Cork. What's your approach to forging these partnerships?
I think a large part because I have this learning and development, HR, and hospitality background,
Mm,
and because I'm naturally an extrovert, I'm not scared to talk to people.
mm-hmm,
I love talking to people. I feed off the energy of other people and other groups. And I think there's no shyness in talking to people about what I do. I have absolutely no problems with self promotion, which may well be why I'm sitting on a core creative podcast
yeah,
as we speak.
yeah.
I love the idea of inspiring and empowering other people. And people often comment when they meet me and they hear what I've done and what we've done specifically over the last 5, 6 years.
Mm,
They say it's inspirational.
mm-hmm,
And if I can be inspirational to somebody else who may then take the chance to believe in themselves as well, fantastic.
mm,
So, yeah, getting back to the galleries and the venues, a large part of it is just being open to it.
mm-hmm,
Opportunity and preparation equal luck.
mm-hmm,
People say I'm very lucky, but I'm prepared and I'm constantly scanning the environment for what's available. I look at open calls. I look at new venues opening. I look at established venues that I'd like to be in. And I make sure that I meet the people behind those places so that I can build relationships with them, not necessarily for immediate gain for either of us, but just to build relationships. And over time, those relationships start maturing.
okay, okay. And in terms of networking, how vital is finding your tribe for a creative entrepreneur?
I think a lot of artists and creatives tend to create alone.
Mm,
They tend to be alone in the studio,
mm,
which is often a very productive way of producing work and being creative. But that aloneness is lonely
mm-hmm,
and isolating. And once that work is created, many creatives don't know what to do with it.
mm,
So I think belonging to networks, belonging to groups allows you to get outside your comfort zone of the studio and allows you to find a way to navigate your community, especially your creative community,
mm,
and then find ways to bridge the gap back to the main community to get your work out into the public.
mm,
And I think that's really important. And it's not just about creative communities and creative networks. I really believe in networking with other, especially business women.
mm-hmm,
And it is especially important for me. It was something I did in South Africa for a long time. So I belong to Network Cork here, and I
mm,
really believe in the support and encouragement that comes from groups like that. And it allows people to be more brave.
mm-hmm.
And if you can't be brave, pretend to be, because nobody can
Exactly.
tell the difference. But it does put you in the right direction, and it's progress, not perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So balancing creativity with the business side can be challenging. How do you manage both these aspects?
I'm a little bit of a unicorn when it comes to that. So I love business
Mm-hmm.
and I love the business side of building relationships with suppliers. I'm particularly good at forging partnerships. I get the importance of keeping good books.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly how many paintings I've painted. I'm on 219 currently. It's in the boot. I'm delivering it with a client this afternoon. It's a commission for a 50th birthday. So I know what I've spent. I know what I've made. I know how many paintings I've sold. I know how many I've donated to charities. I know everything. I have kept historical data.
Mm,
I think that the business side is important. And I think many artists are scared of the business side.
Mm,
And it doesn't need to be scary at all.
mm,
I'm currently doing the Art of Business and Business of Art course with Future Kinsale. Not so much for the business side, although I have found that useful, but for the networking side
mm,
and finding other creatives who are in their own businesses that we can support each other. And that's extremely important
mm,
to be able to find that tribe
mm,
wherever you can find it,
mm,
because when it comes to opening exhibitions and looking out to that sea of faces, you want to see faces that you know and who are
mm.
there because they support you.
And so do you think that like your past experience in, say, work has helped you? Mm,
Absolutely. I think it's a little unfamiliar to the arty scene here.
mm,
It's unusual to have an oil painter who's not shy at all to show off.
yeah.
You know, I might have notions, as it's called here. I don't know. But I think, what's the point of my art if it's sitting in my house? You know,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love it, but
Yeah.
other people love it too. So why not show it?
Yeah, exactly.
And if that can go forth and multiply and become a piece of beautiful art in someone's home or office, why not?
Absolutely.
But where am I going to put all of them anyway? I'm way too prolific.
And drawing on your experience establishing yourself as an artist here in Cork, what's your view on the supports currently available in Ireland to help artists sustain their practice?
There are many funding opportunities that are available through different organizations.
Mm-hmm.
They are, I think the term they use is highly competitive,
Mm,
which, as I understand it, is code for you have probably maybe a 1 in 5 chance of getting this award.
mm,
And there's been a significant increase in applications. The demand is just far exceeding what is available,
mm.
to the extent that I applied for the bursary award with the Arts Council earlier this year for the visual artist section. And they've already come back to saying that they have had a 54% increase year on year
Gosh,
in
yeah. Mm-hmm.
applications. And we see it, you know, on all the funding. So I think many people, you know, would like that funding, but it's not that available. And it's difficult if you're
Mm,
not claiming any kind of benefits or on the register and you're trying to make a go of it without being dependent on the state. It's tricky. It's
mm-hmm.
hard. And you do need multiple income streams. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think many of us are looking for ways to collaborate with others. So I recently joined the West Cork Collective,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Ballinspittle, and we have 17 retail artists and makers who share in the collective rent there. We have an artist space with associate members. And more I'm hearing of artists saying, we need space, we need somewhere to
Absolutely.
paint, we
Mm,
need studio space. I hear it from the likes of the people in Creative Bandon. Everywhere I go in Kinsale, when I meet up with the artists on Kinsale Arts Weekend, it's exactly the same thing.
mm,
We need studio space. And I think there's a real call for, specifically here in sort of West Cork, specifically in the Kinsale Bandon
mm.
area, that if there's a patron out there that is keen to sponsor some space, we are so desperate to put a group of professional visual artists together to have a practicing arts studio. So that I think would be on the wish list.
Mm.
And I think with, you know, my business background, I'd be very happy to run it and coordinate it
Yeah.
and to get a space where we could all create and run workshops and be able to encourage people to be creative and to support their creative arts practices.
I know when we recently had a podcast with Clonakilty Community Arts Centre, and
Yes.
they were spoke about that need to have a studio space and how important it is for other artists to connect with each other and for their art to be able to have a space that can be displayed in a space, and the importance for the local community to have that in the areas. It's so important. So I can understand why Kinsale or Bandon they could also do with a space like that, because the one in Clonakilty is at threat now because the premise is up for sale. So they're in that very vulnerable state. So
I listened to the podcast, I heard it,
yeah.
and we all resonate with it.
Mm,
So yes, you know, I'm a member of Soundpole Studios, and that's in the city, but specifically in Kinsale Bandon, there's nothing, and there's a constant call for it. And it's a challenge.
Mm,
And unfortunately, artists are notoriously poor. There is a perception that original art is too expensive and people want to buy prints. It isn't necessarily that
mm,
expensive if you're buying direct from the artist or you're using local galleries that
mm.
support local artists. There's no reason it shouldn't be affordable. And the reality is, if there is that collective space, it builds that sense of community and it builds that sense of entrepreneurship and allows people to develop skills within the group from each other. So
Mm.
if I'm really good at business and entrepreneurship, and you're really good at digital skills, and she's really good at teaching, we can collectively grow our skills in a synergistic way.
And do you think local communities need to get more supportive of local artists, maybe buy more local artists' work? Is that kind of an important part of it? Mm,
Absolutely. So if you have a choice between buying a piece of mass produced art versus buying a piece of art that a local artist has painted here in
mm,
Ireland, why would you not?
mm, mm.
If you can't afford a big one, buy a small one.
Yeah.
If you, and many artists are very open to doing commissions. They're open to coming to I come to people's homes. I come and consult with them on size, on the type of shape, whether it's portrait or landscape.
Mm,
I advise people on what's going to look best. So they get something really bespoke, individual, and unique to them
mm,
and to their environment. And it means so much more because they've journeyed with you, the artist,
mm.
and there's a story behind it.
Yeah.
And people most certainly do buy into stories.
Mm,
If people meet me and we get chatting and they hear a little bit about the story, it intrigues them. They're like, what's with this 55-year-old woman who's now gone out on her own and has, left her job to do this? That's wow. Okay, let's listen a bit more.
mm, mm,
And if you buy into that art, you're supporting that person and their journey. And that in itself inspires somebody else potentially to take that journey.
mm.
Or even the people who are buying the art might say, well, you know what, you started an oil painting for beginners class at 46. Maybe I could do that too.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a punt for my art classes at all. but you know what it does? It's just, it becomes self feeding and
Yeah. Yeah.
people get inspired by the process. They get
Mm,
inspired by the journey. They want to be part of the journey. They want to be part of my story.
mm.
And by me being in their homes, I become part of theirs. Some of my collectors have got 9, 10 pieces already.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Mm.
just, it's amazing. It's
Great.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And alongside your busy art career, you also serve on the board of EIL Intercultural Learning and a tutor for Cork Education and Training Board. What drives this commitment to volunteer work and community involvement?
So there's two key elements to that. The one is civic responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have a role to be part of making our community better.
Mm-hmm.
Now, EIL Intercultural Learning has a partnership with a group called AFS. And I was an AFS exchange student as an 18, 19-year-old from
Gosh.
Bloemfontein in South Africa to Luxembourg. And it took them 35 years to hunt me down and find me.
Yeah.
I found out about EIL Ireland by accident in Basel in Switzerland, of all
Yeah.
places. I approached them to see if they would be interested in me volunteering, and they were looking for board directors. And the other common element linked to civic responsibility is my belief in leadership
Mm-hmm.
and enhancing leadership skills. So when I was working with Deloitte many years ago, I was a master trainer dealing in leadership skills specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So my role as a board director is a leadership role linked to my community responsibility. And my role at Cork ETB, I work on the Skills to Advance program.
Mm-hmm.
So that is specifically growing leadership skills. I've just completed a program that was designed for the hospitality sector. So after 23 years of working in hospitality, I feel I have a responsibility to help grow the next round of leaders in the industry. And whether that's growing leadership skills in a social enterprise like EIL Intercultural Learning or on a public workshop for Cork ETB, it's growing people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And inherently, that's what we all are working on. Our art speaks to other people, it communicates a message, and it gives a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning to people's lives. And if you can be part of people's journey in all of that, what a trifecta.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 Looking back at your journey, what's the core drive that keeps you creating and evolving?
To this day, I look at these paintings at the end and I go, I can't believe I can do that.
It's great.
It's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm like, how did I even figure this out?
Yeah.
So in 2009, I picked up some paintbrushes. It was so bad. It was really just, I looked
I
back at it
can't
and I said, oh,
believe
no,
that.
it was really bad. It was so bad. I put the paintbrushes down and started karate with my kids and did that for the next 8 years. But I just, it's a learned skill.
Mm,
And if you learn how to do oil painting, you know the rules.
mm,
And while I'm an extrovert type of person, I do believe that society and life and relationships and art all have rules.
mm.
Once you know what the rules are, you can color within the lines or without the lines, or go over the lines or make new lines.
Break the
But
rules.
if you know what the parameters are, you can then
Yeah.
push boundaries
Yes.
and you can play with it. So I think the biggest part of the journey has been figuring out, how does it all work?
Mm-hmm.
How do these things work? Like when we started the B&Bs, simple things like, where do I get the little soaps from? Like how do I actually do this? I knew nothing about running B&Bs when I started.
Yeah.
And I think the trick in life is to be as generous as you can with your knowledge and your experience. I mean, when we had the B&Bs, I used to invite other B&B owners all the time to come and have a tea and a tour. And people always commented, you're so generous with your knowledge. And I believe if you help other people, whether that's in hospitality or in art, to be better at their craft or
Mm,
better in their role, you're rising the tide, and it's better for everybody.
mm,
If the quality of the art is better, if the quality of the way we present our art is better, if the quality of the way we run our art businesses is better, that's good for all of us. So I believe in both mentoring and being a mentee. And I've been very fortunate here. The local enterprise office are amazing with their mentorship
mm.
programs. I've done mentorship with both Maeve Ring and with Anna Healy, the current president of Network Island West Cork. So I'm really blessed with that. And I'm not scared to ask for help whenever I need it. And I think being humble enough to understand where you do have gaps,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, Belbin says we all have our strengths and our acceptable
Mm.
weaknesses. I understand that there are weaknesses I have. If you don't have a skill set, marry it, which is why I married an accountant, a very supportive and wonderful accountant. So, yeah, I think it's important to help each other. And I think that's part of life's journey. And if we are intersecting at different points, connecting the dots then becomes our way to help others along and for them to help us.
So, what's been the most rewarding aspect of it?
The connection with people.
Mm.
I was commissioned to do a massive painting. It was 1.5 meters by 2 meters by one of our clients in our B&B. He's an engineer, and he loved to travel internationally from South Africa to go to rave parties. He would like literally jump on a plane and go off to Amsterdam or Budapest or wherever, and or go to these massive raves and come back. And he had a posse of friends that would go to these things with him,
Mm.
either in South Africa or internationally. And he commissioned me to do this massive painting. I think there were 12 of them all in all. And they were all in their rave gear and like sort of think cosplay. Like this was
Yeah.
a fantastical, incredible big painting. But the journey with him and the banter and the fun is just incredible.
Mm.
Working at the moment with this 50th birthday present, co-conspiring with the wife and the sister and dropping it off with the mummy on the way home from
Yeah.
this podcast interview today. It's just that, to me, gives me a huge kick. And when people see their own portrait or they see their own, whatever is special to
Yeah.
them, that really is amazing. And that means something to them. And you will always be part of their lives because it will sit there reminding you of them, and
Mm.
that happy memory stays with you.
Absolutely. And what are the big ambitions or dream projects that are fueling your passion and vision for the future of your art?
Up until now, I've been really focused on landscapes, seascapes, sort of a lot of Irish scenery.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to kind of move that a little bit towards Irish portraiture.
Okay.
And we were mentioning while we were chatting before the podcast, I have a particular interest in what has been termed, I think, the new Irish. So people that are naturalizing as Irish citizens. I think it's fascinating, of course, being the child of an Irish and Welsh immigrant who came to South Africa as children. We grew up as immigrants' children. We've come back as Irish South Africans, being almost foreigners, Irish but not.
Mm.
And I think there's a whole body of work. I think we'll call it Irish but not. And with the naturalization ceremonies that are happening, my husband is going through his naturalization process at the moment. And I think it's really interesting looking at all the different nationalities who are naturalizing as Irish citizens. And of the 191,000 people that naturalized since the citizenship ceremonies came into place in 2011, it's really interesting. That's 140 different countries.
Mm.
And it fascinates me who's in the top 10. Well, I know who's in the top 10, and I'd like to paint a representative from each of those top 10 countries.
Yeah.
South Africa's number 7, India number 1, UK number 2, and Brazil number 3, just
Yeah.
as a teaser campaign to what this body of work is going to look like. So I think that's really cool. There is a perception amongst the Irish community that I've been talking to that they wouldn't necessarily want a portrait of somebody else in their home. And that wasn't a thing in South Africa.
Mm.
You know, if I painted a beautiful Zulu Shembe man in the local supermarket, I stopped him and said, please, may I take your photo? I would love to paint you. That would sell. If I had a beautiful waitress with a huge afro and she was stunning, I mean, this meter by meter portrait would go live with the chief operating officer of a major bank.
Mm.
It was not uncommon for portraits to be sold easily. Whereas there is a bit of resistance, I feel, in the Irish community. So I've stayed a bit clear of it, you know, while I'm building my footprint, but I really want to paint these big paintings of Irish citizens, Irish but not.
A good one. That's a good name. Exactly. And drawing on your diverse experience of reinvention and building your art business in Ireland, what's one piece of advice you'd give to fellow creative entrepreneurs?
Don't be scared of the business side. Don't be scared of the people side.
Mm.
Focus on building relationships with suppliers. I think people underestimate that. I try as much as possible to use local suppliers. So my printer for my fine art prints is here in Clonakilty, Strand Framing.
Mm.
I try as much as possible to source suppliers within my own pond. So if I'm looking for somebody to help me with digital marketing, for example, I will specifically go and fish in the Network Cork and Network West Cork pond, because that helps me to support other members of the community that I'm networking within. And I think if people want to take themselves seriously as artists, or take themselves seriously as any kind of business person, you need to track what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to keep record of what you're producing, how much it costs, how much you're making, and keep a record of what you've done so that when you start reaping the benefits of it, you can see it. It's a little bit like deciding to lose 10 kilograms. You know, you don't notice the little weight loss as it goes along, but somebody who hasn't seen you in 8 months goes, holy cow, what happened to you?
Yeah.
It's the same with an artistic journey. It's incremental. You plant so many seeds. Some of them just die, but many of them are starting to flourish. And now you're starting to reap the benefit. And a year down the line now of being a full-time professional artist, 4 solo exhibitions, artist in residence, core creative podcast. I mean, the list goes on. I've had so much press coverage. It's just, I mean, I had something in the Echo recently, the My Weekend feature. That's a full page. I mean, I'm just a little South African artist who's moved to Ireland 4 years ago. So, but it shows that if you're determined and you have tenacity and grit, you can succeed. And I think that's important for everyone to realize. They can all succeed. It doesn't matter how good or strong you are. It's about persevering and being consistent. I think those would be my key lessons.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Emma, for joining us on the podcast. You have been an inspiration. If you want to learn more about Emma and her work, you can find links to her website and socials on corkcreative.ie.
Thank you so much.
Great.